Video games are really weird, and the characters found within are often no different. And although we play games featuring fire-throwing plumbers, super soldiers made from entire brass orchestras, or platforming cubes of meat, there are a few that, in terms of strangeness, stand head and shoulders above the rest. I'm Josh the Top Hat Gamer, and these are the top 8 best disembodied heads in video games. Number 8. Mother Brain, Metroid. While not a traditional cranium, Mother Brain is easily the first character that comes to mind when I think of the best disembodied heads in gaming. Making your way through Metroid's dark and dangerous caverns only to find yourself face to face with a giant brain was certainly unexpected. Later Metroid games would give one of the grossest final bosses from the NES days a brand new, equally gross body, but the first encounter with Mother Brain kept her noggin confined to a giant glass jar at the end of a bullshit hallway. And for a big lump of grey matter, she does just fine defending herself. You go, girl. Number 7. Medusa, Castlevania. You fight a bunch of goofy stuff in the original Castlevania, like these weird little flea dudes, but few stand out in my mind like the Medusa heads. Being knocked left and right by these buggers is frustrating on its own, but adding the chance to fall into an instant death pit made for some classic retro difficulty. But once you make your way past these little pains in the neck, you fight the Mama Medusa. Comparatively, I think the smaller heads are more difficult to deal with, but the giant Medusa head is a great way to capitalize on the level leading up to it. Number 6. John Romero, Doom 2. You've been blasting your way through the legions of hell for hours and hours, and you come face to face with this, the Icon of Sin. Probably the most evil-looking final boss in video games to this day. But the Icon of Sin is just the face of Doom 2's final evil. Turning no-clip on would reveal that one of the game's creators, John Romero, was the true heart of the Icon of Sin, his disembodied head impaled on a spike, taunting you in a reversed, demonic-sounding voice the entire time. This easy-to-miss head spike is now one of the most iconic video game Easter eggs of all time. Number 5. Ghoul of Feroza, Dark Souls 2. The Dark Souls games are well known for their difficulty and tense atmospheres. If you want to succeed, you really need to keep your head on straight. Unless you're Ghoul of Feroza, that is. Once a notorious sellsword and ferocious warrior, Ghoul can be found in Dark Souls 2's Shaded Woods. Or at least part of him can be. Ghoul's head makes the most of the silence of the Shaded Woods by reflecting on his thoughts, and somehow selling the player items and weapons. Where does he keep them? How does he keep people from stealing his stuff? Who knows? All we really know is that his body remains a badass, seeking combat and death wherever it is. Number 4. The Headlander, Headlander. When you take a step back and look at it, there's very few playable characters in video games who are just a head. The other entries on this list are NPCs, enemies, and bosses, but the Headlander stands out as the only one players can control. They're also ridiculously capable for what is essentially a head in a jar, though that might be because the jar in question is actually a super high-tech helmet, complete with reflective shield, rocket thrusters, and a high-powered vacuum. You know, for when you need to behead a robot and take its body for yourself. They may not have the most memorable personality, but the Headlander is certainly unique, there's no doubt about that. Number 3. Nick Carlisle, Lollipop Chainsaw. Lollipop Chainsaw is a wacky game. It features weird musically themed boss battles and a chainsaw-wielding zombie-hunting cheerleader as its main character. With all that, having the disembodied head of the hero's boyfriend hanging from a belt the entire time is honestly not the strangest aspect of the game. Despite her zombie-killing prowess, her boyfriend Nick tries his best to save her from a sneak attack, getting himself bitten in the process. Running low on time and ideas, Juliet, the game's hero, performs some emergency surgery, and, well, now he's ahead. But don't feel too bad for poor Nick. At least his head can be used as both a long and short-range weapon. That totally makes up for, not having anything below the neck. Number 2. Paper Bag Head, PT. There are few games that have scared me as much as the playable teaser for the once-in-development Silent Hills. It may have just been a demo, but man, from the creepy fetus in the sink, to the ghostly woman stalking your every move, there's just so much to creep you out. If you end up getting caught by the ghost, you're sent back to the room you began in, but with one horrifying difference. Exploring the room will reveal a bloody paper bag sitting in the corner. Look a little closer, and the bag will start to move with a muffled voice that warns you of the dimension-shifting house you find yourself in. There's just enough rustling from the bag and modulation on the voice to make what one can only assume to be a severed head more unsettling than you would initially think. Which is saying something. Number 1. Andros, Star Fox 64. Did anyone honestly think that a game about anthropomorphic space pilots saving the galaxy would culminate in an aerial assault against a creepy floating face? Like on multiple occasions, even? Once a regular-sized mad scientist ape, years of exposure to his own experiments on the secluded planet known as Venom have turned Andros into a giant floating head, accompanied by 2 equally giant floating hands. What's even more terrifying is his casual use of puns as his face explodes apart, revealing his final form, a brain and 2 eyeballs. Wow. Stunned though I may have been when I first fought the final boss of Star Fox 64, Fox McCloud sort of just takes it in his stride, like, oh, you're just a brain and eyes now. Okay. I guess when you're already fighting a giant ape face, then a giant brain and eyes is really not much more strange. And that's my list of the best disembodied heads in gaming. Surely there are more, and these are only my picks, so let me know if I missed some of your favorites down in the comments. Game on!